All right, give me 1 second. Okay, welcome. Good morning. It is another Sunday. Happy Sunday. And today we go over, well, on Sundays and on Wednesdays when we do A Course in Miracles calls, which is really combining financial and spiritual freedom. And I love to bring spirituality into the conversation of money because when we have a true north spiritually in what we're doing and what is our vision, what is our end goal, then everything else falls in line with it. See, being spiritually minded when we start to have this financial conversation really is to help you choose what your soul wants. And that's one of the conversations that a lot of people get their jobs and they do and they go out and they work their W-2 jobs and 1 second. Whatever job that they're holding and whatever they're actually doing is not really in alignment with spiritually and in the depth of their soul what they actually want, right? And this is one of the conversations that I want to have and bring more light to on these calls is how do we get spiritually aligned and with our finances, with our financial decisions. Again, for those of you guys that are just hopping on right now, we're talking about money through the perspective of A Course in Miracles. This is the book right here. It's this blue book. It is 3 parts. The first part is text-based. And although the languaging itself is Christian-based, this is by no means a Christian book. Actually, just as many people that are Christians find this book kind of not offensive, but brings them up against their own limiting beliefs as well. All right. So yeah, the conversation of being aligned to what you truly want spiritually is extremely important. This is why you find a lot of people out there really fighting and resisting against their own life, against their circumstances in their life. They've projected a life that they are living, and people become victims to their own projections, which, if you really think about it, is kind of an insane statement that what I see in this world, I don't actually see. See, the Course says that what you are seeing with the eyes, your physical eyes, is actually image making. You are making what you want to see. And we all know this to be true when we think about a car that we want to buy, and all of a sudden we see the car everywhere, or it's because we bring it to our mind and our body follows our mind. Right. So then it's extremely important for us to become aware of what is it that fills my mind up. Did I make it? Who put it there? Where do these images come from? And the Course says that the only thoughts that are in your mind that you should be focused on is loving thoughts. Because not one idea and not one thought that you have is wholly true. Wholly as in the whole, it's entirely true. They're all a perspective, an angle at something. So then from that perspective, we can think about that I don't really know anything, right? So this is why the lessons in the Course early on, it says, I'm not upset for the reason that I think. So I think I'm upset because my wife said words to me. I think I'm upset when an investment doesn't go the way that I wanted to go, but that's not really why you're upset. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit more into, and we will discover and have that conversation today. So I had a question before this call, which was again, if you want to ask that question again, because I kind of forgot. Oh, What on these calls, how come I don't put a topic? And sometimes I'll put a topic, but sometimes I won't. This is actually my practice in this is my faith practice, actually, is the trust practice. Can you start a call every single day or every single week for an hour and 30 minutes, not knowing the topic that you're going to have? And you just roll with it. You roll in the present moment, because the present moment is the only moment that there actually even exists. So can you roll with the present moment by being on a doing a Zoom call, not knowing the agenda, or getting up on stage and not having any idea what you're going to say, and letting the present teach you about the present, letting this moment teach you everything about this moment, just rolling with it. And this is that trust factor that we start also to build with, I don't know, some other intelligence, right? We say God or cosmic intelligence or universal intelligence, anything you want to call it, that is the life force behind everything that's happening. The intelligence of a seed being planted into a ground and it grows into a tree or a flower or whatever, an embryo turning into a baby, right? So like, we don't actually know how all of that happens. We try to put scientific terms behind it, but Einstein said, when you look at science long enough, what you'll find is the unexplainable. What you'll find is spirituality, because at some point it's faith. One of my good friends actually calls that hydro view. It's a view that cannot be proven, nor can it not be proven. And that's really God. And so those conversations then come in our faith that things are working out for us, in our faith and in our absolute certainty that God's got our back. That no matter what is really seeming like is happening in our life, that is happening for us, not that it's happening to us, not that we are a victim to something, but that it's happening for us, that there is something and some place that we got to go to, somebody that we need to meet, and they're pushing you and bumping you back in the right direction. Okay, and I say this sometimes, which is, we land here in this life and the GPS is already set. The GPS is the destination is home. The destination is heaven. It's already set. You can take any turn that you want in life and it will redirect you back. Maybe sometimes it looks like it's a slap in the face or a punch in the face or a punch in the gut, whatever you want to call it, but it is a redirect. It means that at some point you have chosen incorrectly. You have chosen to see pain or attack where it doesn't actually exist, where love is present, and you see pain and judgment and shame and guilt instead. And this is what the Course says, that we need to shift our perspectives in our mind, because what we think is real is what we are going to make as an image through our body's eye. And that is everything. Everything that you see is made up in your mind. You see a world and then you project it out there and then you perceive it back. And the ego is so crazy and insane that the ego says, no, actually, that's happening out there. And that's why I'm experiencing the way that I'm experiencing. This person said these words. This person did this, right? His action said this. We just made that shit up. And we're like, yep, that is why I experience it this way. So we think about all of our relationships. Oh, I can't forgive this person because they did this. Or if I talk to this person about an investment, this is the way they're going to respond. Like, we've created a story, we've created a perspective already. Now, these perspectives are everything that we've learned throughout our lifetime. What was the conversation at the dinner table? How did my mom and my dad treat each other? How do they treat me? See, we make up a whole bunch of stories. We make up a whole bunch of stories and we live them as if they're the truth. They're the truth of the world. And we're a victim to those truths. And in order for me to get rid of my pain, my shame, and my guilt, I project it onto other people. So then I project it onto my kids. I project it onto my friends. I tell them that this is a scary world. You can't trust this and you can't trust that. Or money is extremely hard to come by. And then now the next person that receives it becomes a victim to your projection, and so on and so forth. And we wonder why we end up in wars, why war even happens. See, the Course actually says that war doesn't happen. I mean, war doesn't get, you can't remove war by doing something in the physical world. You can only remove war starting with your own perception, because on some level, every time that you judge, you are starting a war. And on the macro level to the world, the wars look like guns, violence, looks like kidnapping, looks like rape, looks like all that stuff. Those are wars. So if you really think about that, every form, every type of fear, every type of guilt, every type of shame thoughts that you have in your mind is a different form of the same war that goes on outside that we see in the news. Where do you harbor attack thoughts in your mind? See, the Course says that the world does not need to change. My wife does not need to change. People do not need to change, but my perception of the world, people, wife needs to change. And that's why the entire Course says that your tool to returning home, to choosing the right path again, is through forgiveness. And last week we talked about what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is a clearing. It's a clearing of a space. Forgiveness is not, I pardon you for the acts that you did or for the words that you said, making those things even more true and bigger. Because as you have to conquer fear or conquer, your unforgiving thoughts, all it actually does is make those thoughts more real. And the forgiveness is that I forgive you for what I thought you did to me, but it did not happen. It did not happen the way that I thought it did. And I go to this story a lot, which is Marianne Williamson. She's a great teacher of the Course. And she ran for president. I voted for her. I donated like $1,000 to her campaign. And I never get involved politically about anything. But I was like, if anybody's going to change the world, it would be Marianne Williamson. And because she talks about love. She talks about love constantly. She has an amazing book called A Return to Love. And all of her other audiobooks, it's all I listen to. I don't listen to any audiobooks, on finances, on real estate, on any of that stuff. I listen to Marianne Williamson, A Course in Miracles, my relationship to God. And I know sometimes this is an uncomfortable conversation. I forgot there's a comedian that says, I love making people uncomfortable, so I always talk to them about Jesus Christ. So I just think that's funny. But your remembrance of why you're here and what you're here to do will guide you straight, will give you, like, in any situation, like what you're actually here for. In a sales meeting, in a sales conversation, if you're here to sell a product, is making the sale your goal, or is the relationship that could possibly be created the goal? Right? Is helping my sister or my brother see their truest potential the goal here? And in turn, I will see my own. Like, what is happening here beyond the sale? Why are we even here? Of all 8 billion people in the world, I'm sitting with you selling you a product. Where do we go home together? See, the Course says we return to the kingdom. in pairs. And it's in every single instant, the holy instant, that this moment, me and you, each one of us here together are remembering where home is, what's actually important to us, and it's my heartfelt wish that at the end of this call or sometime during this call that you find it in your heart somewhere that you access forgiveness for something, someone, or yourself. Okay. Hey, Donna, go ahead. Ask your question.
Oh my God, this morning I woke up at 5 o'clock and I was just like going through all these thoughts in my head, the analyzer in me, right? It's just like, what if, what if, what if? And so I'm just going to describe this, and then this whole conversation is so relevant though. Do you happen to know what a choker vine is?
A choker vine?
Yeah, it's like a weed that kind of wraps itself around a bush, and it like makes it immovable. Like it can't move its branches after a while, and the only way to get it, it basically suffocates it. And so the only way that you can get the plant free is to like cut it out, right? Cut the choker vine out. And so like, this is the image that I have in my mind of a specific family member. Like, they're the choker vine, I am the plant being suffocated. And I know that, what you're saying here, that, what story that I'm telling in myself isn't really the way it happened, but it feels so stinking real at times. And, then I was going to the scenario like, well, if I let the vine win, like if I, metaphorically kill off myself in that situation, then the vine wins, and then my ego starts taking over. Like, there's this whole crazy story that I was going through, but maybe that's the right answer. Like, just, it's not true. It's not, I don't even know how to describe it, but this whole crazy thought went through my head. And yeah. I said, Alex says to turn yourself over to God, like turn the problem over to God. And I'm like, I did, okay, God, take this over, but I don't feel it like happening. I still feel this power of this choker vine around me. So I'm conflicted on, maybe you have some advice here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you haven't actually turned it over. See, the Course says that God says, I will purify all of your thoughts and your ideas, but do not try to purify them first and then hand them to me. Oh. See, you think that you have to purify something first and then you hand it over. Like, I need to have my thought like this, but it's a perspective of the entire situation that gets to change. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that the Course says every single one of our problems stems to one problem. And that is the problem that we think separation actually exists. See, when we look at the bodies, yes, separation exists, but the mind that is witnessing Alex play out his whole life and Donna playing out her whole life, there is a mind, a witnesser that is witnessing you. Think about your experience of your life. You're not really living it through your body. There is a witnesser that is witnessing your life being played out. And that connects us all. And there is no separation there. So is there even a choker vine? Is there even a tree? Are they even separate? Does one win over the other? You see, that's the thinking in my mind that has to be shifted. Otherwise, you will never truly see win-win. It is always somebody is the choker vine and somebody is the tree.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's the shifting of that there could possibly be separation. That is the problem, the one problem that we have. And the Course says that your one problem is already been answered because it never actually existed. that you are living a dream, that separation is actually even possible. So then when we start to think about only love, and we think about acceptance, and we access gratitude, and we bring forth love and forgiveness to others, we start to see, man, we were just like meant to be together. We were meant to meet. Like everybody on this call, I look around at the names and the faces, and I just think about, man, I was meant to meet all of you. And I think, yeah, every single person here, I've had some sort of connection with, right? You guys have made it onto this call. You guys have been on other calls that I've done. You guys have come into my space. What are we supposed to do together? What is our mission? See, our mission is very simple. The Course says our mission is always to walk each other home. That is it.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey,
Okay.
hey.
Okay, Donna, funny you were saying that, because yesterday I was just cutting that vine while I was listening to Alex's call. I mean, it really did. I mean, it was an awful vine. Now, Alex, what I'm still, I mean, because this goes back to when I was a little kid growing up. I mean, I was always taught about, and I'm having a hard time letting go of heaven and hell, the devil and God. I mean, you keep saying, I mean, the devil doesn't exist, but I mean, I don't know how I have a hard time with that one.
Well, so here's the thing. You believe something, right? There's a belief system that you have. Now, I don't need to prove it to you that it exists or it doesn't exist. See, it's your own beliefs. It's your own belief system. Do you believe it? If you believe it, you're going to guard it because it's valuable to you. Every belief, and this is why the Course says every idea you have, including who you think you are, your entire identity that you've designed for yourself, is an idea to be undone. Now, the ego doesn't want to hear that. See, the ego thrives off of separation. So I've created and designed the whole identity of myself, like, for 36 years. How can I let this go? And as long as you don't let it go, as long as you don't undo who you are in this moment, the ego's got you trapped. Okay, and I'm gonna read something from the Course, but I'll take McGenna. Go ahead, you first.
Thank you. Hey, Donna, and everyone else. Good morning. Nice to meet so many of you I haven't met yet. I was born and raised in Albania, and we were not allowed to practice any religions. And in a way, I'm super grateful, because in secrecy, we all believed in God. And this is why, to us, we see people for people. We don't connect with people because of religious beliefs. But there has to be that belief in the God, in that higher force. And I'm so grateful for that. And when I was listening to your comment, Donna, this is what came to my mind. You may feel that in your opinion, in your idea, that negative vine that's locking you, that you are unable to breathe. What if that's God's way, of the universe way of protecting you? What if this person or this feeling that you feel is trapping you, it's blocking you? What if it's creating that guard, that shield, and you begin to shift your relationship with it, and perhaps you no longer will feel the way you feel? And I don't know what you're referring to, if it's a person, a feeling, a limited belief, or a lack of self-confidence. Whatever that thing may be, I agree with Alex. Everything that we think can be undone. Like we must be in control of our thoughts. And I just wanted to share that perspective with you. It may help, because you are in control of your thoughts, and you'd be surprised how much better you may feel when you see something not as a negative, but maybe as a positive. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for that. And as you're speaking, McGenna, I had a thought in my mind. If you think about, let's say you made a deal with yourself that before you came to this life, you were like, it's beautiful when people forgive. And, when you think about a movie that you watch where forgiveness happens and, love returns and we all feel so good at the end of the movie, if you told yourself this, I want to learn and experience what that's like, what scenario would you make for yourself in such a way that you would actually experience that, you would have that profound experience of forgiveness and love? Or there's a great book called The Journey of Souls, that two souls, before they come to this, or maybe it's Soul Contracts, one of those books. I was into all that stuff back in the day. But some of these things I take away because it's cool. And it helps me shift, just break my story just a little bit so that I can surrender it to the Holy Spirit. Which is, if two souls, me and you, Donna, we're two souls in soul society, and we're getting ready to jump into this game called Earth. And when we come here, we're going to forget everything. But I told you, Donna, I was like, and you're like, I just really want to experience and learn this amazing human experience of forgiveness and love. Because in soul society, it's always love. There is no other things that's happening. You're like, okay, that's what I want. And I'm like, okay, Donna, I will do this for you. But in this dream world, I may have to do something really bad to you, or it may seem like it's done to you, so that you have the opportunity to practice forgiveness and love. And if that's your entire mission for your whole life, that's your mission right there. All this other stuff of making money and stuff, this is part of the game. Just play it, have fun with it. What's your one true mission in your life? And all of us have one. Our entire life has been up to this point, pointing to it, but we just refuse to see it. We all have one mission. What is that mission? And we start to make clear of that mission when we start to think and see others, and we start to see only love. Right? I said last week, I forget what question somebody was asking me, and I was like, do you believe in love? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, do you believe in love only? That means there is nothing else besides love. And then that was that question right there is what you should be asking yourself. Every time you see something happening in the news, every time you hear something, every time you judge against one of your brothers or sisters, do I believe in love only? Do I want peace? And do I want to experience peace, love, and joy? Or do I want to be right about some small perspective that somehow in the 36 years of my life, out of eternity, okay, back in the days when the dinosaurs are here, all the way to the future, in this 36 years, somehow I think through the perspective of this tiny speck, I know how God should operate in this world. I know what's my best interest. I know what's your best interest. I know what's in the best interest of the entire planet, the country. Like, think about the insanity of that thought. See, the Course says not only you shouldn't judge because it's the right thing to do. You shouldn't judge because you can't judge. You don't have the capacity to judge anything because you don't see anything. You see a little speck into a room and you decide what's best for the room. And so if we want to live into this flow of life, if we're committed to living into the flow of life and know what our purpose and our mission is, we have to let go of our wanting to be right, our wanting to judge every scenario, our wanting to be separate from our brothers and sisters. Okay, and so I'm going to read something in the Course, and I love this section. So this is really, we're going to talk about the development of trust. And you can apply this to God. You can apply this to yourself. You can apply this to the people that you're doing business with and your family members. The development of trust. First, we're going to say, what are the characteristics of
What
God's
page,
teaching?
Alex?
Hey,
What?
we are in the Manual for Teachers in the back. and
Okay.
it is section 4 or page 9.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, first it says that who are God's teachers, right? So a God's teacher is anyone who chooses to be one. See, you're not special. Just because you're a teacher of God does not mean you're special. A teacher of God is anyone who chooses to be one. His or her qualifications consist solely in this: somehow, somewhere, he has made a deliberate choice in which he did not see his interests apart from someone else's. That is your only decision or choice that you have to make to be a God's teacher, the teacher of God. Now, who are their pupils? See, we all know that when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? But when the teacher is ready, the student also appears. So we have learning and teachings upside down in this world. See, we think what's happening right now is Alex is sitting here teaching me about A Course in Miracles. See, learning and teaching is not that. There is a learning that is happening that's like a circle, that's a dance, that at any given moment, the teacher becomes the student and the student becomes the teacher and vice versa. Because only this moment will tell us about the learning that is happening. That's why a great teacher is also a great student. And a great student learns to teach. And our entire Legends Equity group, so those of you guys that are part of the community that I started, is based on that. We are teaching people to teach. Because when you believe that you can teach, there is a part of you that gets activated, that you realize that your message somehow matters, that your voice somehow matters, and you start to dig deeper. You start to dig deeper into yourself. What is my message to the world? And this is why I also believe that social media is super important, that doing these calls are super important, because as you're doing them, you're digging deep on what is the depth of my soul and what am I saying here and what's the message that I have for the world. Every day that I get on a Zoom call, I dig deeper. Every day I do a Instagram call, I dig deeper. Every day that I read A Course in Miracles, I dig deeper. What is my message? Who is around me in my life right now that is supposed to teach me and show me something? Okay. And then there are levels of teaching. And the only and levels, not in the term of like judgment of hierarchy and levels, but only in time. So the Holy Spirit uses what we believe is true, knowing that it's still an illusion, yet at the same time holding for us what is truly true with a capital T, and is the communicator in between that, helping us have a miracle moment, which is to shift our mindsets from a space of fear to a space of love. Okay, now we're at what are the characteristics of God's teacher? The surface trait. So as I read all of this, okay, like try to remove the need to understand what it is that I'm saying. Because all you're going to try to understand from, the space that you're going to understand from, is your experience of your life. And it requires a judgment to compartmentalize. Put all the judgments aside on the shelf for a moment and listen to the words behind these words. What is truly being said here is what you want to listen to. All right. What's the love that you hear? Okay. If you have any resistance to it, you're not thinking about love. You're thinking about, I don't know, something that's not love. Okay. The surface traits of God's teachers are not all alike. They do not look alike to the body's eyes. They come from vastly different backgrounds. Their experiences of the world vary greatly, and their superficial personalities, quote unquote, are quite distinct. nor at the beginning stages of their functioning as teachers of God have they yet acquired a deeper characteristic that will establish them as what they are. God gives special gifts to his teachers because they have a special role in his plan for the atonement. Their specialness is, of course, only temporary, set in time as a means of leading out of time. These special gifts, born in the holy relationship toward which the meaning at which the teaching learning situation is geared, become characteristics of all teachers of God who has advanced their own learning. In this respect, they are all alike. All differences among the sons of God are temporary. Nevertheless, in time, it can be said that the advanced teachers of God have the following characteristics. And I'm only going to read about the one, and then I'll talk about the others. Okay. One is trust. This is the foundation of which their ability to fulfill their function rests. Perception is the result of learning. In fact, perception is learning because cause and effect are never separated. The teachers of God have trust in the world because they have learned it is not governed by the laws the world made up. It is governed by a power that is in them, but not of them. It is this power that keeps all things safe. It is through this power that the teachers of God look upon a forgiven world. When this power has once been experienced, it is impossible to trust one's own petty strength again. Who would attempt to fly with the tiny wings of a sparrow when the mighty power of an eagle has been given him? And who would place his faith in the shabby offerings of the ego when the gifts of God are laid before him? What is it that introduces them to make this shift? So, the development of trust. This is what I want to cover and talk about today. The development of trust. First, it's an experiential, not an intellectual shift. Okay. You got to understand the difference. There's an intellectual way of understanding something, and there's an experiential way of understanding something. The Course says that love cannot be taught because it is beyond what could be taught. But you could have a loving experience. And that experience can carry you forth to many things. So first, the teacher of God must go through what might be called a period of undoing. So I want everyone to think about your own journeys as I read about this. Which phase and which step are you at? And don't linger on that for too long, because then you'll miss what I'm going to say next. Okay, just kind of in the back of your mind, oh, where am I? Okay, maybe I'm here. Maybe. Always use the word maybe. Always maybe use the word maybe. How's that? This need not be painful, but it usually is so experienced. It seems as things are being taken away, and it is rarely understood initially that their lack of value is merely being recognized. When you lose something, supposedly lose something, the lack of the value of that actual thing is being recognized, but we don't recognize that it is being recognized. How can lack of value be perceived unless the perceiver is in the position where he must see things in a different light? He is yet at a point at which he can make the shift internally. Okay, you're not at that point. And so the plan sometimes calls for changes in what seems to be external circumstances. These changes are always helpful. When the teacher of God has learned that much, he goes on to the second stage. So when and many of us think about this, we're just at stage one. We're like, oh yeah, everything happens for me, not to me. Everything that's happening to me is helpful. See, we come to that idea sometimes. We want to believe it, but it's an intellectual belief. Some of us will have experiences of that belief, and so we move on to the next stage. The second stage, next, the teacher of God must go through a period of sorting out. This is always somewhat difficult because having learned that the changes of his life are always helpful, he must now, and I'm going to change all the he's to she's on this call, just for fun. She must now decide all things on the basis of whether they increase the helpfulness or hamper it. She will find that many, if not most of the things she valued before will merely hinder her ability to transfer what she has learned to new situations as they arise, because she has valued what really is valueless. One sec. She will not generalize the lesson for fear of loss and sacrifice. It takes great learning to understand that all things, events, encounters, and circumstances are helpful. It is only to the extent to which they are helpful in any degree of reality be accorded them in this world of illusion. The word value can apply to nothing else. The third stage through which the teacher of God must go can be called a period of relinquishment. If this is interpreted as giving up the desirable, it will engender enormous conflict. See, there is a path that some yogis and some Eastern philosophy, Eastern teaching students go into. I need to renounce this world and all the things. I need to let go of all the attachments. You see, it's not really about letting go of the physical things and putting yourself in a cave and sitting there and looking for enlightenment. It's that your perspective of all the things that you're attached to shifts, which the Course says is you are finding the truth about the value of all the things in your life. You need not let them go. You just need to have a shift in perception. So this third stage is called a period of relinquishment. If this is interpreted as giving up the desirable, it will engender enormous conflict. Few teachers of God escape this distress entirely. There is, however, no point in sorting out the valuable from the valueless unless next obvious step is taken. Therefore, the period of overlap is apt to be one of which the teacher of God feels called upon to sacrifice his own best interest on behalf of truth. She has not realized as yet how wholly impossible such a demand would be. She can learn. See, a lot of times we think, yeah, exactly, it's getting deep. It's getting deep because this is where spiritually most people hit a wall. I must make sacrifices. And what's it called? Unconsciously, people do this. Parents do this. I'm making sacrifices to you. When you're on a team, I'm making the sacrifice by doing this. I'm making the sacrifice. And it's always I'm doing more and you're doing less. See, that's the ego. That's the game that the ego plays. You're doing something where at one point you were like, man, this was nothing. And as you do it, you start to think it's more, and what the other person is doing becomes less. And that's why relationships get screwed up. And this is why when the ego is in the relationship, every single time when you're in a loving relationship with your partners, at one point, all they had to do was bring you a bowl of cereal and you'll be so grateful and so happy. This is the most loving, romantic gesture. And if they do it 3 years into the relationship, what are you doing? Like, what is this? You know, this is not an expression of love. Okay, so yeah, let's get through these stages because this is where most people are stuck, that we think that there's sacrifice demanded of me in my own best interest somehow or in the best interest of others. And this is where people don't realize this is not true. Sacrifice is not demanded of you. She can learn this only as she actually does give up the valueless. Through this, she learns that where she anticipated grief, she finds a happy lightheartedness instead. Where she thought something was asked of her, she finds a gift bestowed upon her. Now comes a period of settling down. See, we have this experience sometimes. You know, we have this moment of clarity and we have this moment and we come to a period of settling down. This is a quiet time in which the teacher of God rests a while in reasonable peace. You're in a great place in your life. Everything is reasonably peaceful. Now she consolidates all her learnings. Now she begins to see the transfer of value of what she has learned. Its potential is literally staggering, and the teacher of God is now at a point of her progress at which she sees it is her whole way out. Give up what you do not want and keep what you do. How simple is the obvious, and how easy to do. The teacher of God needs this period of respite. She has yet come as far as she thinks, though. Yet when she is ready to go on, she goes with mighty companions beside her. Now she rests a while and gathers them before going on. She will not go on from here alone. Okay, but there's still ego operating. And sometimes we're like, wait, so when is this over? As long as you live in the body, it is never over. You are playing the game of practicing peace. You're playing the game of, wait, is the teacher of God, is God's teacher, is the Holy Spirit my teacher, or is my ego my teacher? Is oneness real, or is separation real? Do I want love, or do I want fear? Am I operating? Are the words coming out of my mouth providing and creating more love into the space, or are the words coming out of my mouth creating conflict, creating shame, creating guilt, creating judgment? The next stage is indeed a period of unsettling. It's like, oh my God, how far do I gotta go? Everything was so good. Why did all of a sudden it turn upside down again? Now must the teacher of God understand that she did not really know what was valuable and what was valueless. All that she really learned so far was that she did not want the valueless and that she did want the valuable. Yet her own sorting out was meaningless in teaching her the difference. The idea of sacrifice, so central to her own thought system, had made it impossible for her to judge. She thought she learned willingness, but now she sees that she does not know what willingness is for. And now she must attain a state that may remain impossible to reach for a long, long time. She must learn to lay all her judgments aside and ask only what she really wants in every circumstance. We're not each step into this direction. We're not each step into this direction so heavily enforced, it would be hard indeed. And finally, there is a period of achievement. It is here that learning is consolidated. Now what was seen as merely shadows before becomes solid gains, to be counted in all quote unquote emergencies as well as tranquil times. Indeed, the tranquility is their result, the outcome of honest learning, consistency of thought, and full transfer. This is the stage of real peace. For here is heaven's state fully reflected. From here, the way to heaven is open and easy. In fact, it is here. Who would go anywhere if peace of mind is already complete? And who would seek to change tranquility for something more desirable? What could be more desirable than this? And this is the peace of God that we are looking for. In any moment, in anything in your life, this peace should be what you're going after. And any time that you are conflicted, you're fighting, you're angry, you're judging, you're shaming, you're guilting, you're whatever you're doing, think about it in your mind. Just interrupt your thought for a moment and say, is the peace of God what I want? Or do I want to be right about something right now? Like, is this being right? See, this is what the Course says. You're giving up the valueless, which is the wanting to be right. There is no value in that for you. All that does is create more conflict and readies your army for battle. See, the ego is always ready for battle. The ego is either retreating to build up a defense for war, or the ego is attacking. And from the space of trust, when trust comes as the foundation of everything, this is why I talk about trust all the time. Everything is trust. Thank you for trusting. Thank you for helping me trust. All right. So from there comes honesty. And the term honesty actually does not mean like telling the truth. Honesty is really the term, it means consistency. There is no way you say there's nothing that you say contradicts what you think or do. No thought opposes any other thought. No act belies your word, and no word lacks agreement with another. That's honesty. That's what the Course says. Honesty comes from that place. Consistency. Yeah, thank you for writing that. The consistency of your word to your thoughts. And it can only be consistent when it's from a place of love, because the ego will not be consistent. One moment you say this is bad for you, the next you realize, oh yeah, wow, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Then another moment it could change again. Our perceptions change like this about anything. How many stories are out there that just completely like, oh my God, oh yeah, I see. As long as you can relate to somebody, you see that, oh, maybe my judgment of it was wrong in the first place. Okay. So in my mind, I just had a random story. Okay. So you have let's say you're in the subway or something, and you're trying to read, and you are you want some quiet. Maybe it's not the subway, maybe it's just the library or something, right? Something where you're quiet and you want peace and you're good. And then all of a sudden comes in a dad with 3 kids. And these kids are just running around everywhere, going crazy and just like messing things up. And then you have a judgment thought in your mind. Like, dude, is this dad going to do anything? Like, how are these kids being taught? You know, you have all these thoughts. And then all of a sudden the dad looks over and says to you, hey, I'm sorry about all this. Like, they just lost their mom and I don't really know what to do. Now all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I'm such an asshole for judging. And then you're like, my perceptions just changed about the whole thing. All of a sudden you're more accepting and more, you're more accepting. And then you find out that he just lied to you about the whole thing. And you're like, dude, what kind of freaking asshole makes up some shit like this? And now your perception changed again. This is what the Course says. You're not honest because you can't be consistent with your thought. Your thought just keeps changing. Right? So I don't know. That story, I just kind of thought it in my mind in that moment. There's probably many stories like it. Okay, the next characteristic that comes is tolerance. God's teacher do not judge. To judge is to be dishonest. To judge is to assume a position that you do not have. So tolerance starts to come. All of a sudden you're like, man, I'm more patient. You know, I'm not judging. If you're not judging, you just got infinite patience, right? The line that I've said that a lot of people are like, oh my God, I've just been thinking about that for a while, is infinite patience produces immediate result. Everything that you're upset about is because you don't have enough patience. You believe that something else should happen in this moment, which it has not happened yet. Especially in the multifamily space where people are like, I'm going to give my whole life over so I can become, a real estate investor. And then you find out, man, it's been 3 months. I haven't done anything yet. And then all this stuff is made up, right? There's this one guy who has just been so hard on himself because he's been, in the game for 4 weeks and he hasn't gotten into a deal yet. And he's like, all these people, he starts blaming. All these people, taking all my time and all this stuff. Like, why did you do it in the first place? What did you think was happening? If you can do this for 10 years in your mind and not get the result that you want, then you'll be like, oh, okay, I'm at peace with what I'm doing now. So you got to get to that point where you got to give yourself the patience. Yeah, not judge yourself. So tolerance. Oh, I'm already speaking into the next characteristic that follows, which is gentleness. Harm is impossible for God's teacher. They can neither harm or be harmed. Harm is the outcome of judgment. So you have that gentleness on yourself. And when you have it on yourself, you have it on your brothers and sisters, and then back and forth and back and forth. And this gentleness just continues to grow. Ideas grow as it is shared. Idea grows as you speak into it, as you think about it. So ideas grow. The next step, the next characteristic that comes with that is joy. Joy is the inevitable result of gentleness. Gentleness means that fear is now impossible. And what could interfere with joy? Joy is actually the direction. If you are experiencing joy, it is actually a sign, a signal that you are living into your purpose, that you are answering God's call in this moment, that you've brought joy and you've experienced joy. You experienced joy. That was God's calling. Next characteristic, defenselessness. God's teachers have learned how to be simple. There is no dreams that need defense against the truth. I don't need to be right about anything. I don't need to go and say, you need to study A Course in Miracles. You need to do multifamily. You don't need to do anything. I got no defense against anything. You say one thing, I say maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I don't even know if what I think is the truth. It's not. So I'm not even going to say it. But what you said, maybe it's the truth. I have no idea. Right? You continue to practice giving that up, puts you in the place that you got no load on your shoulders. You don't got to figure out what's right or wrong in this moment. You know that something else or someone else or some other intelligence knows all the answers. So here, you take it. I don't know what the whole thing's about. Right? And I share the one story, it always sticks with me because I probably haven't forgiven it yet, but it's starting to become comical to me, which is I was playing the guitar in Peru on the river, right? I'm just like watching this river, looking at this river, practicing the guitar, playing whatever songs come to me. And this guy walks out of his door, out of his house, which is right next to the river, takes his entire garbage can and just dumps it into the river. And man, those of you guys that were on this call, like that, if there was one thing, I'm always talking about forgiveness and all that. And you can hear it in my tone that I did not have forgiveness happening there. And probably you can still have a little sense of that. Like, who the hell does that? But now I can laugh about it. See, joy and laughter. This is the way to God. This is the way to heaven. And yeah, some of you guys were here when I was telling that story. This was like a little more than a year ago. Like, who am I to know what the whole point of that was? Right? But if I make it my burden now to judge this person, I carry it forth with me, the pain and the attack and the blame. Jessica remembers, yeah. So defenselessness, there's no defense. I don't need the truth needs no defense. Only my small-minded self needs defense. See, the Course says the light needs no defense. Darkness needs defense because darkness isn't real. Darkness requires you to put a shed or something covering the light so that darkness could be there. As soon as the light pokes through, you got to patch it up. Because without the defense that you've created, without the little hut of defense, there is no darkness. When darkness is placed in the light, darkness is just an illusion. All of a sudden you see what was actually there, but we don't see right now because all we see is just darkness. And then the next is generosity. See, generosity to the world right here in this dream world that we live. Generosity means giving away in the sense of giving up, giving away. But the God's teacher knows that I am being generous out of self-interest. And it's not the lowercase self like Alex interest, but a capital self, which is the collective interest. I included in the collective interest. So I am generous from that space. See, the Course says that only those who are truly charitable, those who are truly generous. Wait, what was the line? Wow. Let me think for a second here. You cannot be truly charitable unless you got this characteristic, something like that. Generosity. Oh no, here we go. Those who are only those who are truly abundant can be charitable. Okay, because if you are charitable through scarcity, it is not charity. It is a giving with the string attached to it. Anyways, something along the lines of that. Next comes patience. Those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait and wait without anxiety. So are you patient? Are you certain of the outcome? What is the outcome? The outcome is not what's the outcome of your investment right now. The outcome is that our GPS is all set to home, is all set to heaven. Can you be certain of that? And can you be certain and can you afford to wait, even if you are struggling right now, even if you don't have money, you don't have what you think you deserve or want right now? Can you be certain with absolute certainty from your whole heart that God's got your back, that abundance is waiting for you, that it's only you that is in the way of yourself with the stories that you say? Can you wait without anxiety? And that's the patience that starts to come. And then faithfulness. The extent of the teacher's God's faithfulness is measured in his advancement in the curriculum. Faithfulness is the teacher of God. Trust in the world, capital world of God, to set all things right. Not some, but all. True faithfulness, however, does not deviate. It is tolerant. It implies an acceptance of the world of God and his definition of his son. Like, it's just faithfulness. Like, I believe in the love that is here. I believe in the light that is here, not the darkness that I have created. And then open-mindedness. The centrality of open-mindedness, perhaps the last of the attributes of the teacher of God the teacher of God acquires, is easily understood when its relation to forgiveness is recognized. Open-mindedness comes with lack of judgment. As judgment shuts the mind against God's teacher, so open-mindedness invites him to come in. As condemnation judges the Son of God as evil, so open-mindedness permits him to be judged by the voice of God on his behalf. As the projection of guilt upon him will be sent to hell, so open-mindedness lets Christ's image be extended to him. Only the open-minded can be at peace, for they alone see reason for it. You may notice that the list of attributes of the God's teacher does not include things that are God's son's inheritance. Terms like love, sinlessness, perfection, knowledge, and eternal truth do not appear in this context. They would be mostly inappropriate here. What God has given us is so far beyond our curriculum that learning but disappears in its presence. Yet while its presence is obscured, the focus properly belongs on the curriculum. It is a function of God's teacher to bring true learning to the world. Properly seeking it as unlearning that they bring. For that is the true learning in the world. Properly speaking, it is unlearning. That true learning is actually in this world unlearning. Is to unlearn things. How crazy is that? How deep is that actually, you know? It is given to the teacher of God to bring the glad tidings to complete forgiveness to the world. Blessed indeed are they, for they are the bringers of salvation. So yeah, that is the development of trust and all the characteristics of God's teachers. And again, God's teachers are not special. You're not special. You just have chosen that somehow we have no separation. So that was a lot. Anybody want to ask any question, chime in, whether on Instagram or on Zoom, feel free to just share.
Hey, Alex, this is Galia. Hey, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, and as always, these conversations brings up a lot inside of me. But my mind catch one thing that I can get over, and I'm trying to see how you can maybe deepen the conversation. Remember, you said that in relationship, um, in the beginning, we're happy when the person brings us the cereal, and then 3 years into relationship we're like, what's the cereal? Like, and it's not enough anymore. So can you speak a little bit more into that, and
Mhm.
how do you see that showing up in your relationship? What is the explanation for that, and how do you work on that?
Yeah. Because remember, in the beginning of a relationship, a phone call, a return text message meant the world to you. Now it means
Yeah.
nothing. Now it means nothing. You literally see it and you will even ignore it. Right? Like once upon a time, it's like, oh my God, she's calling me back. She's texting me back. I'm so excited. This is my world right now. And then now it's like, I'll respond later. Like zero emotion to it. Right? It's because of what the course calls special relationships. Special relationships is when we make things special rather than being in the space of love. We make something special. Like in this moment, this text message, it's so special. But specialness only decreases. There's a line that is being drawn towards chaos and war because there's a separation. See, all the problems come from separation again. There is you doing something that dictates my experience of life. Specialness, you're special. You're a special person to me. You sent me a text message. Now my whole day has changed. My mood has changed, and you're special. And they feel special. All of a sudden, there's this specialness that's being traded. And as that continues to happen, what ends up happening is there's a line that is being pushed towards them because that's what the ego does. The ego is looking for conflict and war. So once they did something, it's like, okay, here's a line. Now it's being pushed towards them. They don't, it's now the floor. If you don't do beyond this, now I don't feel special. Okay. And you're no longer special. We're going to get into a fight. If you got me a necklace this year and the next year you get me a necklace again, or if you made dinner this year and you make dinner again next year, like, where's the progress? I don't feel love anymore, right? See the specialness, you're pushing this line towards a conflict. So special love and special hate are both different sides of the same coin, but it's the same thing. It's actually the ego preparing you for battle. So special love is how we have love in this world. There's a sacrifice that comes with that. At some point, then it's like, oh, I gotta make you dinner. I gotta do your laundry. Oh, I gotta make all the money. Whatever the conversation is between a couple. Like once upon a time, we did it because we just wanted to show love. Now it's like a chore because we've lost it. We lost that moment because everything was special. It's always a trade of energy. I'm giving it to you, so you got to give me something back. I'm doing this for you, so where's my quality time? I'm giving this to you. Where's my physical touch? Right? So like we actually give love in the way that we think that we want love. Maybe it's, if you guys have read 5 Love Languages, maybe it's words of affirmation, maybe it's acts of service, maybe it's gifts, maybe it's quality time, maybe it's physical touch, one of these. But I experience physical touch this way as my number one gift. So love language. So I'm going to just physical touch you, but maybe physical touch is on the bottom of their experience of love. Maybe gift giving is at the top. And so they're not experiencing love. See, all this stuff is just all specialness that's happening. So you're trading special love. I love you. Everything that you do. Now I'm handing you the responsibility of my love. Okay. How I feel in my heart, it's your responsibility now. See, special. I give it to you so that you can break it. That's specialness. I give you the power to hurt me now. And that line just gets pushed. And then they drop the ball, and then you get into your conflict, which is what the ego wants, because the ego wants to make sure that separation is still always real in your mind. If you forgot that this chaos exists, then the ego is going to disappear. So the ego's like, no, we need to find some more conflict. So that's one side of the coin. Special hate now is you are the choking vine. You are the cause of my pain and suffering. Special hate. Same exact thing. See, special love is the same thing as special hate. Both of them, you're pushing a line towards them so that they can cross it and you can go to war. Specialness. Now, do you have this relationship to things? If I buy a real nice car, and Jessica, you remember this too. Before I had a Tesla, I was like, man, I really, really want a Tesla. Before, when I was really like struggling still, I was in Florida, I was still making my comeback. I'm like, man, I really want a Tesla. And then I talked about on this call, what happens if somebody scratches my car? Am I going to lose my peace? I had to create a special relationship to the Tesla. I'm talking about it and making it special in my mind right now. I'm prepping myself for it. And because we talked about it and we constantly were working with this, as soon as I got my Tesla, guess what happened? First thing, somebody backs up out of a charging station and smashes right into my car. And it's great because I did not lose my peace for one moment. Not one moment. This dude was backing up in a 1990 pickup truck and has no backup camera. And I'm sitting there and I was backing up and I stopped and I was honking. And this guy just comes backing up and smashes into the back of my car. I'm like, dude, he comes out first thing in his car. Dude, you don't have a backup camera? I'm like, yeah, I do. I was honking. Do you have a backup camera? He said, no. He's like, I looked all the different ways. I'm like, yeah, well, I wasn't even moving. And so he was freaking out. I wasn't losing my peace. And then somebody else was like, well, here's because all the Teslas have cameras that are just going all the time. So they gave me the footage of me just stopped right there and the car backing up and smashing into me. And I didn't lose my peace at all. And the guy gave me his phone number and whatever, and gave me actually some fake insurance card. And I was like, and so I have multiple moments that I could lose my peace because I couldn't get in contact with him anymore. He wasn't picking up his phone. He didn't have the right insurance. I was like, oh, great. Here I go. I got to eat the whole cost. And I did. I didn't lose my peace at all throughout that whole thing. And it's because I was practicing it on this call. So yeah. What were we talking about? Specialness. Yeah, I did not. So I love my car. I can love my car without having a special relationship to it. Every time I sit in my car, I'm like, oh man, this is such a great car. I love it. Do I now want like a Lamborghini and a Bentley and whatever? Yeah, somewhere inside I do. But I'm also practicing this. It's not a special thing. Do I want this love? Do I want this? What do I want from my partner today? Is he going to tell me he loves me? Is he going to spend some quality time with me? Or is he going to sit on his computer and just make Zoom calls all day? This is not what's happening. I'm just making it up. It may seem like it's my life, but it's okay. Partially it is, but she's not saying those things. Okay. Go ahead, Donna.
And this is such a great call. Thank you so much. I just have one question about those characteristics. So like,
right.
I see myself way down on the list. So there's a long way to go, but that's fine. I mean, not a judgment. It just is what it is. But then, I guess in terms of figuring out how to get further up the list, is it more just practicing seeing the love in everything? Coming at it from a place of trust and love and something.
Well, so remember that this whole development of trust, let's see, the thing I read at the very end kind of escaped you, which is all of this is these are characteristics that are learned in this world. When truth and love and what were some of the other ones that are actually your true inheritance is realized, all that learning is gone. None of that is necessary. Okay. It's just in this world, they serve as a reminder to love. They're all pointers to it. Generosity, open-mindedness, patience, they're pointing to what love is. When you actually experience that, none of those things are no longer necessary. And that is you. See, these are other things. We're trying to achieve it. You don't need to achieve it. It is already yours. It's only a remembering. Now, remembering requires consistency, consistent interruptions of our stories. Oh, here's a story that I just made up. Here's an interpretation or a perception that I'm defending like it's the truth. Here I go again, right? And these calls are a reminder for me. As much as people are like, "Oh my God, this is a great call, thank you," I'm like, "Thank you," because if I was just sitting here by myself, it may not be the way that I'm experiencing it. These calls are reminders and important. They're important to me.
I learned an interesting stat yesterday. It says if you focus on something negative for 16 seconds, then more negative stuff will come through with it. But if you focus on something positive for 16 seconds, then the positive thoughts will come through. So you have a little window to interrupt yourself is what I'm
Yeah.
learning.
I mean, 16 seconds may be all that it takes. Just count in your head 16 seconds. Right. And then go and count for 5 minutes. And then count for a couple days. That's why there's all these positive affirmations, and there's all these don't complain, don't speak negative thoughts, like, watch your tongue, watch the poison that comes out of your mouth, stuff like that.
Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for constantly being on here and helping us learn through your, I don't want to say challenges, your potentials,
Sure.
your
Yeah.
opportunities. Yeah. So wait, what time is it? Okay, we still got 11 minutes. I don't know why I always just I'm like, my call's 90 minutes. And oftentimes, y'all know, I go over. Cool. Any other thoughts, questions?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Because I don't know where to find the hand up thing. Where do you find that? I have to hit tap to speak.
Yeah, so there's a reaction button at the bottom of your screen.
Okay.
May or may not be there. And then you click it and it says raise hand.
Okay. Now, referring to what she was just saying, I listened to Mel and Mel Robbins, and she's excellent. And she wrote the book 54321. And
Oh yeah.
in 5 seconds, you can make a life-changing decision. Just by stopping and counting backwards. You got to count backwards because it trains your brain. And you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's scientifically proven.
Yes, interruptions.
Mhm.
Oh, man, I thought I just saw somebody. Lisa's here. Welcome back, my friend.
Hi, how you
Yay. So cool. Well, thanks for hopping in at the end of this call. I'm just going to just drop something here. Hopefully it will support you and what you came here for today. And that is the conscious and the unconscious mind. See, the unconscious mind is the one that we live the world out of. Our reactions are all from the unconscious mind. When somebody cuts me off while I'm driving, unconscious mind reacts. When something happens, words are said to me, unconscious mind reacts. There is that unconscious mind is trained through your whole life of unconsciousness. The words that you're speaking through your mouth, there was so much unconsciousness and automatic happening. That is what the Course says, living in your past, living in the ego, living in those stories, living in hell. Consciousness requires your presence every moment, requires your awareness and your attention to it every moment. So you consciously interrupt your unconscious behaviors so that you can interrupt it and reprogram that unconscious part. You do it enough times, now your reaction to somebody cuts you off is unconsciously different. One time where you may start to have road rage, the next you have complete peace of mind and you don't even see it. It's the consistent practice of changing your mind, right? So again, this brings it back to also the infinite patience brings immediate results is I got patience for myself, right? I'm learning the multifamily, I'm learning the investment game, and I don't judge myself for, man, it's been like 3 weeks. How come I haven't made $1 million yet? All right. We do this with ourselves on all the different levels. Like, oh, I've been practicing my free throw. I've been playing basketball. How come I still suck? It's the day in, day out, day in, day out. That's going to create the separation and train your mind differently, because the goal here is to train our unconscious mind, but to be present in each moment, to realize what's triggering me, what's happening, so that I'm living a life of, like, my life is alive. It's not from automatics. I don't just sit down, automatically press Netflix and this and that's this moment. What's it calling me? I don't go straight into, oh, it's action movies that I always go right to. Maybe in this moment, it's some chick flick that's gonna, I can learn from, and it's gonna bring my fulfillment this moment. I don't know. But we go into the automatic, and our automatic, we're like, okay, well, every time I wanted this, or the first time I saw this, it brought me excitement. Now I just keep going back to it, and I'm like, why is it not bringing me excitement anymore? How come a phone call and a text from my significant other is no longer as exciting and special as the first moment? Right? And then we have to get back to this moment, present moment. And sometimes we may have to lead with the end in mind. Like, what happens if this person dies? Can I bring some appreciation into this moment? Whatever tool helps you to be in the moment. All right. Go ahead, Antoine. What's up, brother? Welcome.
Hey, thank you, man. Just in awe of all the messages. The question is, so from my last call, I've been struggling with what is an ego? What's my ego? What is that? What is it? When you refer to it, what's the ego? It seems to get a lot in the it seems to get in the way of a lot of things that you talk about in terms of being judgmental and other things. So I just need a refresher. What that, what is it? What is ego?
Yeah. So let's not put a specific word or any idea, really. I mean, not idea, but like a box around what the ego is. Let's just look at the ego as it's going to teach you something other than love. It's going to reinforce. See, we identify the ego by looking at its characteristics. What does it do for you? It helps you. It reminds you that you are separate. It creates conflict in your life. The ego is simply a teacher or a thought. It's a thought that somehow I'm separated. And we know that we come from our ego when we have created or participated in conflict. Okay. And conflict could look like anything. In this moment that you are unsure and you have a question about something, it means that you have a conflict. Your ego is trying to challenge the idea. It's trying to not understand something. And this is not a bad and wrong or any conversation. I'm just trying to point out what the ego does. When you look at the results of something, you can see that the ego played a part in it. If I have doubts about something, okay, well, ego's here. I have doubts about this Alex guy who's talking about Course in Miracles. Rather than I have absolute certainty that as the Holy Spirit and God flows through me, same flows through him. The person that shoots up a school, I always use this just because it triggers people too. And I don't even know if it triggers people, but maybe it triggers me. I don't know. But can I have that same experience about that person? Can I access that level of forgiveness? Or is the ego like, nope, not right now. No. This person needs to be punished. This person needs this. Okay, even further than that, the person's parents, and then the environment, the school system, and then the government. Like all of it, we go down this path of blame. And you know that you have operated and listened to the ego when you feel conflicted. All conflicts are equally disturbing to the peace of your mind. All conflict, no matter how small you think it is. So the ego is really just one teacher that teaches separation, that teaches conflict, that teaches that the self, the lowercase self exists. The Holy Spirit teaches you to see bigger. The Holy Spirit teaches you love, acceptance, gratitude. See, there's a different experience about something that you have when you listen to one teacher over the other. And you can't partially listen to one teacher and partially listen to the other. That is actually the conflict that we all have. And why our minds are so twisted and why we can't understand things is because we think we can partially believe heaven is real and partially believe hell is real. The vision of one world costs you the vision of the other. They never, ever share the same characteristic. This is why this world is basically upside down thinking of heaven. Every idea about giving and receiving, about teacher, student, learning, teaching, all of that is brought back into on its head. And we have to, and the only way for us to do that is to let go of what we believe is true and all the things that we rely on ourselves. Yeah, this is good, this is bad, this is true, this is false. Think about all the judgments that we got to go through throughout the day. Oh my God. If we really counted it, we would be like, wow, if I could do anything that much in my life, I would be so successful at it. All right. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I can't really put a picture or a box of what the ego is, but those are some of the characteristics of the ego. And you can only really tell and create the image and picture for yourself as you experience life.
I appreciate that insight. It's a teacher, and we tend to, as you described it too, we tend to, do the boo-boo and then realize, oh man, I should have done that differently. I want to take what you just said and rewind back to, 2 minutes when you were talking about unconscious and conscious as well. So does the ego maybe reside on the unconscious side, and then we react and do things, and then we feel terrible afterwards, and then consciously we have to then fix the ego? Is that
yeah. I mean, yeah, if it's creating some conflict for you, it's for sure the ego. It's for sure, like, yeah, it makes it automatic. See, the ego doesn't want you to be conscious and present in this moment, because if you're conscious and present in this moment, you may experience something that is different from the story that the ego drew up. And you're like, oh, wait, this didn't actually happen. I thought that I was not going to enjoy this, but I quite enjoyed it. Okay, I went ice skating and I didn't think that, I was going to really enjoy it, but I actually had a great time. Right, Dwight?
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, this is a great conversation, and it's really pertinent to where I'm at already mentally with regards to Kelly, who we went ice skating with, because I'm in the beginning of this relationship with her, and she's so amazing and so special to me, and I'm overwhelmed with these thoughts of, well, how do I keep this relationship from devolving into something where I just take it for granted after a couple of years, or there's resentment that builds up because I feel like she didn't play towards my language of love as much as I played towards hers, and things like that. And so I've been thinking a lot about that lately, and this is very
this is the faith and trust. Yeah. See, the faith and trust in yourself that you will be consistent, that love will carry forth and give you the consistency and motivation to remember what love really is. See, like we will let go of all the stories, all my insecurities, so that I can be in this moment and be the best version of myself. Like, how can I be consistent? See, a lot of people come onto this call when they're already created so much chaos in their life. When the course says that when things are great and when things are good, that's when you actually really got to remember too, when you really got to take it to the next level, when you got to be here and write the expectations that you're going to start to create. Because love itself, that we have it in this world, causes distortions, and it brings up insecurities and fears. I mean, I was talking to somebody about a dog that they got, and the dog is literally like a year old, and she's already thinking about how she can't live without this dog. What's going to happen when this dog dies?
Yeah.
Right. And like, it's just like our mind brings us to this conflict and fear and insecurity all the time, but it requires this trust, not in this relationship, But in that, no matter what happens, God's got my back and this is working out for me. All things are working for me, including her coming into my life, how long she's staying. I don't have no control over that, but I can be in this moment focus on loving thoughts, right? All that other fear things, the being afraid of it, you, like Donna said, you put 16 seconds into it, you're going to go down that rabbit hole. You put 16 seconds into the loving memories and the loving thoughts, and you go in the other way. You go into the gratitude and stuff. But oftentimes what happens is as soon as we don't even give it 16 seconds, the negative thought comes in and it just comes straight out of our mouth. All right. Because we believe in this giving and receiving of this world, which is I give to you, I have less, you have more. That means if I feel a little bit of guilt or shame or insecurity, all I have to do is project it to you. And now I have less and you have more. But that's not what's happening. Every time you project it, both sides increases of that fear. Right. This is why I truly believe in the win-win. You just help other people win. And it's an idea that grows together. All ships rise with the rising tide, right? Something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So thank you.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. So I'm going to conclude this call. We went a little bit over, but, great questions. I didn't want to, stop right there. It's exactly what we needed. 34 minutes or 4 minutes over, but I will read and lead us out with one final lesson or prayer. Hopefully, if you take nothing away from this call, you simply just remember this for the day and that it may guide you to some more peace and love and joy in your life. So take a deep breath in, let it out. All the things that we talked about aside. Be here in this moment and listen to these words. Lesson 317, I follow in the way appointed me. I have a special place to fill, a role for me alone. Salvation waits until I take this part as what I choose to do. Until I make this choice, I am the slave of time and human destiny. But when I'm willingly and gladly go the way my Father's plan appointed me to go, then I will recognize salvation is already here, already given to all my brothers and already mine as well. Father, your way is what I choose today. Where it will lead me, do I choose to go. What it would have me do, I choose to do. Your way is certain and the end secure. The memory of you awaits me there. And all my sorrows end in your embrace, which you have promised to your Son, who thought mistakenly that he had wandered from the sure protection of your loving arms. Lesson 317, I follow in the appointed way. Thank you. Amen. I hope.
Amen, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for being here and thank you for sharing. Love
Thank
you
you,
all. May you
Alex.
have a blessed day today. See you on Wednesday.